Okay, 5:30 having arrived, we're going to call the meeting to order and start with a pledge of allegiance to the flag, if we could. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have one, I don't know if the right's
What'd you bring, Fred?
okay. First thing I'm going to mention is that Denise Gregg will not be joining us this evening. She's had a family matter that has called her away, so there'll be no final report from the Joint Loss Committee. That said, I would look to the Conservation Commission, and I see neither Sarita Fry nor anyone else from the Conservation Commission. Okay. We actually have paperwork in our folder, her fourth quarter 2019 report. So if she doesn't show up, I think this is more than adequate and gives us a good idea of what they're working on. Next order of business, we have a longevity award, and this is for Ann Vetterbeck, library employee. And Ann has now been with us for 10 years, and we have a certificate and a small financial award to give Ann, and she's advised us that she couldn't be here this evening, but certainly wanted to get this on television and read into the minutes, and I will leave it in the capable hands of Mr. Harrington to make sure she gets it. We've had a request from Sarah Wicks to meet with us. This is an ongoing matter that we had discussed with her before. I assume that if she does show this evening, she's going to want to meet in non-public, so I will keep an eye out for her. Moving down the column, Wes Gollum had requested to talk to us about energy upgrade results for GBW and some ideas that he had. I had mentioned this a meeting or two ago that I had met with Wes and reviewed some of his ideas, but he's got some results he'd like to share with us regarding some of the improvements that were made here, and I'd invite you to go to the microphone, Wes. And
thank you.
yeah, we do have information packets in the folder as well from Wes.
So thank you for taking the time tonight to hear this. I followed the upgrades to this building, which started, I believe, in 2014, and I've been putting them into a program called Portfolio Manager, which is an EPA program that tracks buildings, and it actually is the program that determines whether or not a building meets Energy Star. And just a summary of what the town did over the course of, I think it was 5 or 6 years, there was a total cost of about $197,000 for all of the upgrades to this building. And I'm assuming in these figures that I give you that all of that money was actually spent on energy upgrades. I don't think that's the truth, but that's what these numbers are based on. And based on that, we got a return the first year of $26,000.
Wow.
That's what we saved on energy between 2013 for the year and 2018. I actually upgraded these. I looked at the program today, and without the final results for this year, we're up around saving $27,000 this year over 2013, which, by the way, works out to a 4 cent on 1,000 tax reduction, which I think everybody is happy about. Our demand as of last year was down 57%. The report I saw today had it down 60%. Our greenhouse gas emissions from this building alone down 61%. And the big one, the town got a return on investment of about 13.2% on this project, which is really great. As a subset of that project, the last year, and this is the reason, that one of the reasons that the numbers may vary from last year to this year. I'm not sure exactly when it was completed, but we did a lighting upgrade on this building. That cost, and that's included in that number that I gave you before, the 197, that cost about $7,700, and that saved us $4,200 the first year, or a return on our investment of 55%. And you've got some graphs and numbers in your presentation, which are from this EPA program I was telling you about. So I just want to take this time here to congratulate you and the people who did the heavy lifting in this project, because I've been following projects like this on the local energy committee steering committee for the last 12 years, and this is one of the best ones I've seen in the state. So congratulations and thanks for the work you've done. And that said, I don't think that this was a fluke. I think that this was well thought out, and it is a model for future projects that could be energy efficient and cost effective for the town. And I think I've seen that other towns are systematically doing this and saving money and cutting taxes, and I would like to see Deerfield do that. And now I got to stop for a second. I'm a retired teacher. I can't go on without a quiz, okay? Here's your true or false quiz for the night. Deerfield has a goal someplace written of being net zero by 2030. True or false?
True.
It is true. Thank you. I've asked a bunch of people that, and not everybody, very few up till now have said that. We do have that goal. It's in our master plan. And again, this project here is a really good step towards that. And it's a first step I'd like to see us continue. And I would like to offer as a mechanism a reformation of the Energy Committee. And specifically, this would be to develop strategies for Deerfield to become a net zero community by 2030, and find and promote specific cost-effective projects which would lower taxes, energy consumption, greenhouse gas emissions, and help us get to the net zero in the master plan. And in there, I've got a bunch of different things that I would see the Energy Committee doing. One of them, right off the bat, would be to help to find a place where we could have a solar array. You'll find in your packets some sample power purchase agreements from a couple of solar companies. This is a way that towns can put PV on, we had hoped on the roof of this building, but that won't work because of structural stuff. But someplace else, an array on the roof of this building. Last year, we got a quote for it, and it would have provided about 2/3 of the Eversource bill that the town sees every year. And through a power purchase agreement, there's typically no upfront cost to the town. I recognize the issues. One of the main issues we have in town is funding things like this, or funding anything, and I recognize that. And that said, I think there's opportunities out there. There's also a $3 million infusion to the state clean energy fund, which at least $2 million of is going to go to a revolving loan fund for projects like this. There's a new law called the Community Power Law, which also allows for some flexibility in projects like this. So I don't know, since we already have a warrant article, what's needed, if it would be a vote or whatever, but whatever it would take, I would appreciate it if you would agree to restarting an Energy Committee. And I want to be very specific about one of the differences, because you may be thinking, oh, we had that, it didn't work. Actually, I think it did work as far as it went. But one of the big, from my perspective, one of the big things that failed or was a negative the first time around was we were all energy geeks on that committee and committed people. We worked hard and whatnot. But I would suggest that what I've seen since then is the towns that are successful have stakeholders from throughout the community on a committee like this, and I've already gotten some tentative commitments from a variety of what I would call key people. So I would ask you to approve this however you need to, and I would suggest that I'll come back within a month with a formal list of people who would serve on this committee.
Wonderful.
Great. Thank you for the report, Wes, and I don't think that there'd be much objection from the Board of Selectmen to reconstituting the Energy Committee, and I think, you know, what you've showed us here for energy savings, light replacement, that sort of thing, came directly out of the original Energy Committee, as I recall. But I would refer people, and I had watched this at Wes's direction prior, but if you do have a chance to look at the dairy project, he's got the address in the back of the packet here. That will give you some ideas about what a town like Deerfield might realize and what we might be able to do. But
Thanks for saying that. Excuse me for, but wait, there's more. Joshua Borden, who is the chairman of the Derry Town Council, and the person you'll see in this interview, has told me to relay to you that he would be glad to come in here and speak with you about their projects, which have been a success. And yes, Derry has, I don't know how many times the amount of energy consumption, all the rest, they're larger than we are, but please look at this as a model. And thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Wes. Okay, I am going to go back to the top of the list here, and we have Sarita Fry, the chairman of the Conservation Commission, with us, and I know she has a quarterly update about what's going on with regard to conservation.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, so I think Judy, our clerk, sent you a copy of this, so
She
you
did.
presumably have it in front of you. I'll just highlight a few of the items. So we have a bulleted list here. I think the one that's perhaps of most interest at the top is that we're working with the planning board and the town planner to update the zoning ordinance for wetlands, and that will be on the ballot in March. And there is a public hearing for that this Wednesday as part of the planning board meeting. At least I believe that's right. Is that correct, Fred?
That's right.
So that's, I think, one of the things that we've been most actively working on the last couple of months. Beyond that, we have continued with our kind of typical land, easement monitoring, continuing with a number of the projects that we have been working on for a while. We've also reviewed a couple of Eversource applications to the planning board, in particular one recently for a conditional use permit for a structural replacement project. I believe there are continued conversations with Eversource going forward into January. I received an email about that today anyway. We've also reviewed a handbook on a guide for planning trails with an emphasis on wildlife, and that's being developed by New Hampshire Fish and Game. And finally, we just have continued to review notifications of wetland, shoreland, and forestry permit applications to DES. So that's what I have for you tonight, unless you have questions.
Well done.
I don't think we do, and thank you much for your time.
All right, see you next time.
For all you do.
Thanks. Okay. Next, I'm going to move to Sarah Wicks, and I see that Ms. Wicks is here. Do you want to meet with us? I'm assuming probably in non-public, Sarah? Yeah. So if I could get a motion to go into non-public?
You may. I'll make a motion under RSA 91A3 Roman numeral 2, letter C. Matters which is discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And I myself agree, so I will move the meeting to non-public session in the rear of the room with, okay, I'm going to call us back into public session, and note that no action was taken in the non-public session. Could I get a motion to seal the minutes of the
So moved.
non-public session?
Second.
And roll call vote. Those in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes, and myself am in favor. Consider the minutes sealed. At this point, does any board member wish to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we abate, Sarah Wicks, $3,000 of interest.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, appears to be unanimous. And Ms. Wicks can work through the town clerk tax collector's office with regard to that, and certainly reach out to the town administrator, John Harrington, if you need assistance.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
so much, all of you. Thank you.
Okay. Review of outstanding minutes. We've got minutes from November 25th.
Motion to approve minutes of November 25th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Okay, appears to be unanimous. We have accounts payable manifest in the amount of $630,108.74. Obviously, a very large chunk of that is headed to the school district.
I believe that's the county payment.
I'm sorry, headed to the county.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Andy, how much was the county's bill?
Oh, hold on one second. Rockingham County Treasurer received a check for $578,321. Strangely enough, about the same amount we generally allocate to the school.
Except This is only once a year.
Yeah. Okay, we have a number of things in the signature file. Let's see how many. Start with the one item that doesn't require a motion and a second, and that would be a notice of intent to cut wood or timber. And this is from Michael Urick of 99 Old Center Road. He's got an average of 5 acres that he's looking to cut. Do we need this signed in both places, John? I think we do on the second copy.
Might as well. She's with two signature things.
It's the intent to cut. Okay, I have 2 applications for tax credits or exemptions. The first is from Jonathan and Sarah Leslie, and this is based on Jonathan Leslie's military service, and they are looking for the standard veterans tax credit. Everything appears to be in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, those in favor of granting the veterans tax credit?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I have a second application for veterans tax credit, and this is from Mario Ray II, 85 Hartford Brook Road. Everything appears to be in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Okay, next up, I have a computer adjustment abatement request from the tax collector's office, and this is in regard to the 12 properties that the town is in the process of deeding or has deeded. The town is exempt from taxation, and as we are now taking ownership of those properties, we've been advised by Avatar that we should abate the amounts on each lot that are now being taxed to the town. I'll read the map and lot numbers. That's how the tax collector has presented them. There are 12 of them in total. I'll list the abatement amount as well. Parcel ID M201L21, abatement amount of $957. M208L28, abatement amount of $2787. M204L33, $275 abatement. M208L3, $164 abatement. M208L22, $551 abatement. M206L26, $639 abatement. M405L19, $1 abatement. M405L76, $766 abatement. M418L25, $2,555 abatement. M418L26, $119 abatement. M418L62, $3,672 abatement, and M420L66, $1,349 abatement, for a total combined abatement amount of $13,835.
Make a motion to approve all 12 abatements.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Along the same lines, we have a request from the tax collector's office for multiple refund requests for second half 2019 bill, and this is basically because of overpayments. She's requesting a refund for each of the parcels listed below because they overpaid their property taxes. Total amount of the refunds is $1,168.40. I will read the taxpayers in question that will be receiving the refund request if this is approved, and that is Harry Weiser of Canterbury, New Hampshire, Michael Valancourt of Raymond, New Hampshire, Donna Ramirez of Methuen, Mass., Linda Lobau of Deerfield, Cale DeRochers of Deerfield, Michael Gilkinson of Deerfield, Ronald Gianquinta of Deerfield, and Patrick Bonnell of Deerfield. And these refunds range from $1 to a high of $333.80. So if we could get a motion to grant the refunds for overpayment.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least, we have the service agreement between the town of Deerfield and Ruth A. Hanrahan, and this is for cleaning services as we awarded at last meeting. It requires one signature, and if the board is agreeable and could make a motion to authorize the chair to sign the contract agreement, we can keep the building clean.
So moved.
A second for that?
That's when we approved at the last meeting.
Right.
We're just signing it now.
Yep. Folder. Okay, moving to correspondence. Couple of things. I would note that the majority of the board signed an accounts payable manifest in the amount of $1,053,503.70 on December 2nd, as well as a payroll manifest of $47,655.43, also on December 2nd. The other thing that I would mention, just an update on the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. The fieldwork team has completed its initial inspection of all 51 miles of Deerfield's roadway. It hasn't been organized yet. The next steps include meeting with the road agent to review and make sure that he's in agreement with the assessed segments and that sort of thing, make any necessary adjustments and conduct any field work that appears to have not been completed after that review with the road agent. So that is ongoing and forward to getting the report. We have a number of other items in here. Theodore Gatsis has given us a report of what's happening with the Executive Council. We have a notice from the town of Pelham regarding a wireless communications tower. This is notice to abutters. And we've got some information from DES, as well as some information from a trial summary from Upton and Hatfield for your review. Town Administrator's Report.
I have one item this evening. In your yearly board calendar, it indicates the last meeting of the year on December 26th, the day after Christmas. My recommendation, with your approval, is to move it to that Monday, the 23rd. And we still have one final Monday if it should be needed on the 30th for a follow-up meeting.
That sounds good. So is next Monday out?
That's scheduled. Whether we need it or not, that's up to you.
So as, what I'm getting at is, we're gonna go from now to the 23rd?
Well,
Every Monday in December is typically scheduled out for budgetary reasons, but the final review of the budget's been done. You just need to approve the final budget. You can keep the 16th, or we can cancel it and go to the 23rd.
yeah,
If you
essentially
want.
what we're doing is we had the 26th listed, which is a Thursday, the day
Yeah.
after, and I think we're all probably in general agreement that that's a lousy night to have a meeting. And we can move to the 23rd. Does the board want to dump the 16th and just use the 23rd as our meeting date?
Good idea, unless we need to, we can call it.
I will post it as canceled.
I'm in general agreement. So we will scratch the 16th, and the next Selectmen's meeting will be December 23rd, and we can, if we need to schedule a meeting for encumbrances or anything like that prior to the close of the year, we can sneak one in the last week.
Good.
Okay, unfinished business, letter to the Northwood Board of Selectmen, I believe, regarding
Right.
Gulf Road. And I don't know, did we have a letter, or are we working on?
But we had passed them out at the last
Right.
meeting. And
Okay.
the board members were going to be reviewing
We're going to get back to you with what they
Right.
thought.
any edits.
Does anyone on the board have any edits for the letter as presented?
I have,
I don't hear any, so.
I don't have a problem with the letter at all, Fred. Do you think this will stop, and once we do this, until they come up with a better plan for that road?
Yeah, and we also, the planning board is also considering a potential zoning change to increase the strength or argument against Northwood as well, as far as limiting them on issuing building permits as well.
That's-
I think it's important that we look at steps like that because we've had this same discussion probably 20 years ago where it was expressly represented that the town of Deerfield did not want to see more development out there and that we didn't have the ability to improve the road access that was lakeside to accommodate emergency vehicles, and it didn't seem to, maybe for a year to 18 months, not a lot went on, but it picked up pretty quickly thereafter, so.
Yeah.
I just hope we don't let it stop. After this letter, we keep doing something.
Well, hopefully their planner will continue to make the recommendations against any subdivisions taking place because of the limitations on Gulf Road.
Good.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Fred. Sorry, John. yours.
So with that approval, I can have the letter printed on letterhead, ready for your signature on the 23rd.
Great.
And we do have to pass it before the planning board members as well, for them to take a look at it, see if there's any edits on their behalf.
When you're done with your final copy, just email it to me and
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
Okay. Under new business, before moving to things at large, one of the things that we should probably get out of the way is warrant articles, what we might want to propose. And I believe we've got in our file what we had last year and some of the things we've discussed over the course of the year. And these are going to take a review by town council and a little bit of crafting. So if we could decide what we might be interested in pursuing and what we're not interested in pursuing this evening, it would probably be good. Starting with last year, I think probably looking at warrant Article 2, and that was the Police Department Expendable Trust Fund, whether we want to try for that again to move forward with planning money for Police Department.
There's no way we can go ahead with the cost of doing it,
The
project.
total cost?
Yeah.
I guess we could. I know the committee that came up with the $50,000 amount thought that it would probably be in our best interest to have some plans that we could show the community when we went forward for the total amount, but that could be developed on the on the road to building, I suppose.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I can't see ballparking a number which we have no strong justification on.
The $50,000 amount that we used last year was based on, I'm going to say, $44,000 to $46,000 in hard costs for engineering, planning, and rounding it up to 50 gave us a little bit of extra that we could use for communication to the community about what we were looking at and seeking input from them as well. So I don't know, I guess I'm comfortable moving forward with the 50,000, certainly. I don't know how the board feels about.
Yeah,
Keep it at that, or do you want to change it to 46 or whatever you said it really is?
We could certainly make that 46,000, I think is comfortable. I've got the original Warren Street plans. If the board feels that 46 or 46.5 or something might be more palatable than 50.
Well, we're only talking $3,500, so. It's always nice to have a little bit of extra money there in case something else comes up, but I would be happy with the 50,000. I certainly wouldn't want to propose a 1.4 million without having plans to be able to show people.
I agree. I agree with the 50.
So is there general agreement that we can proceed with the $50,000 request?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think the other thing that we probably want to talk about are do we want to do the usual capital reserve funds that we've done? And that would be fire apparatus, the municipal government buildings, infrastructure, the winter road maintenance, expendable trust. That, I know the road agent is anxious for us to include that again this year to replenish the winter road fund because we depleted it substantially last year.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think, as we moved along with default budgets over the last 5 years or so, we have been using these expendable trusts more and
Right.
need to keep them replenished.
So we can get rid of Article 8 then?
Depending. That would be, I don't know, has Matt submitted anything regarding?
Could I just
warrant
ask you to go in order, just so I make
Oh,
sure
sure.
that so Article 3 you're going to go with?
Yes, Article 3. Article 5 was a one-time, was my understanding. I don't know if that,
Right.
So we're not going to go with Article 5.
unless the fire chief comes back and asks us to replace that.
I'll check with him.
Yeah, I think we are in agreement that we would go with Article 6,
Okay.
and that we would also go with Article 7.
Right.
And we may want to check with the highway agent to see exactly what he'd like to see put in that warrant article, because he's going to have a better idea than we're likely to. Warrant Article 8 is the command vehicle for the fire department.
It's way out of control for that price for that vehicle. It only gets used.
Do we have a,
I mean, does he come back with it? They spent a lot of money fixing rust and things like that on it.
Well, in talking to Matt the last time about the command vehicle, he was uncertain whether or not to put another warrant article for a lease or just leave it off altogether, depending on how it passes inspection or not next year. Because if it goes on a warrant article and it fails, we're unable to use any funds to buy a command
Right.
vehicle. If we leave it off, then he can tap into the fire apparatus and equipment fund to replace a vehicle and just pay for it.
Sounds good.
So-
Leave it off.
what's the board's pleasure? You want to leave that off this year? It's been a loser of a warrant article year on year.
Yeah, I know. Take a break.
So we're going to leave it off?
Yes.
I'd
you know,
defer to
unless-
Cindy. Cindy says leave it off, so I would agree
Okay.
with Cindy.
Unless the fire chief comes back and has a different proposal, but I
Okay.
guess that is the will of the board at this point.
Okay.
You know, if he'd come back with something reasonable, like an F-150 or something like that,
I'll let him know.
That's the concern, the vehicle designed before isn't being used like it was before. So I think he can come back with something a little better.
not against a vehicle, but against a Tahoe.
Okay. Before we go past,
Did you express that to?
I will pass on
That was
those, that information to him. Article 4, is there any interest before we move on?
Cost of living adjustment. Last year, we asked for 2%. I don't know what the board's thoughts are. We haven't discussed this at all.
We can certainly revisit it.
23rd.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would suggest that we revisit
Okay.
that the 23rd. That's fairly boilerplate language that's not going to require any. Article 9, this is the Fire Department Vehicle and Equipment Expendable Trust Fund. This comes from unassigned fund balance if we have any.
Good.
I'm generally in favor of that. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the same with Article 10 for rescue vehicles and equipment.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything yet from Northwood Lake. I'm assuming they may
We should keep it in there.
Yeah, I assume it
back
would be
to
the
us.
same thing.
I have heard from the PLPA. They're requesting that Article 12 go back in the same language.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's plan on keeping 11 and 12 then, and we can,
Yep.
if we don't hear from Northwood, we can remove it. But,
Right.
which brings us to possible new warrant articles. We've got the Town Hall Elevator Expendable Trust Fund. This is basically to begin a trust fund as opposed to seeking full expenditure for the Town Hall elevator. There's $25,000 in here, as much for the point of illustrating what the warrant article would look like. Don't know how the board feels in regard to floating that.
Good idea. Instead of trying to get the whole amount.
Are we comfortable starting with 25,000 and?
It'll take 20 years to come up.
Yeah, I think we were in the vicinity of
$500,000.
300 and something, as I recall, 350 or
Yeah.
360.
So I don't know if we want to discuss whether we have another number besides 25,000.
Did Fran come up with that number, Andy?
I don't believe so.
This is just a placeholder.
Oh, okay. Maybe find out from that committee what.
Well, we can reach out, this typically came from the Heritage Commission. We should probably reach out to them, first of all, to see if they would have any support for this, and if they had a dollar amount that they might be interested
I'd rather vote on somebody
in
else's.
having us vote on.
recommend.
Do we have to have wording in there to accept donations as well, or is that part of the RSA?
We would definitely want wording in there to be able to accept donations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next possible proposed new is for road improvement, repair, and reconstruction, including drainage improvements. This has got an amount of $250,000 in there. That is as much a placeholder as anything, too. We've heard what the road agent intends to put forward for road projects this coming budget cycle. This was thought to be a good measure of the town's commitment to improving road quality and also keep it out of Mark's budget. So it doesn't hooch his budget or the town budget, for a lack of a better term. I think that probably anything from $100,000 on up would be an adequate amount, but I don't know how the board feels. I did talk to Mark, and he's in support of it. He said, if the town wants to get behind it, he's happy to do more road reconstruction, and if they don't, it's a pretty clear message how the community feels about what needs to be spent on roads.
Do we have any idea when Southern Hampshire will have their report?
I do not.
Okay.
We want-
Would like to be able to see what they're recommending and.
We got time on that, right? We got a little.
Well, we can leave it at 250, as it's written and presented, and either downgrade or upgrade as we get closer.
Yeah.
But is the board in general agreement that we should leave the road reconstruction and
Yes.
repair and maintenance warrant article on the warrant?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
You've already talked about the
Yeah,
last
we've already
one.
talked about the Tahoe.
This warrant, the last warrant article was sent to me late last week from the cemetery trustees.
And that, we can place it on there for them, or we can tell them that we don't want to place it on there and that they need to go get the appropriate number of signatures. I don't know how the board feels.
What's the downside for us putting it on there?
Nothing, except that it appears we support it if we put it on there. And if the board doesn't support that, we may want to tell them to make it a petition warrant article.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So we would prefer to see it as a petition warrant article coming independently from them as opposed to coming from us. Is the board in general agreement with that, or?
Yeah, I guess if the cemetery trustees really would want it, then, yeah, I guess there would be,
I don't think the number of signatures is prohibitive for that
Right.
to be a.
So I will connect with them and let them know you prefer a petition
We
warrant
would
article.
prefer it to come as a petition independent warrant article.
There is one other newer warrant article Wes Gollum mentioned. He sent me language late. I did not get it in this packet. I can have it ready for the 23rd
To
regarding the solar committee.
Right, with the
Energy.
Energy Committee, to
Energy
reconstitute
Committee.
the Energy
Good
Committee.
idea.
Yeah, I think that is a good idea, and Wes was very gracious this evening in thanking the Select Board for doing the heavy lifting with regard to that, but as I recall, it was a combination of previous town administrators and recommendations from the Energy Commission and maybe the Planning Board that actually moved that, so having them back again's not a bad idea.
That's what, Parks and Rec is looking at putting together a warrant article for, field maintenance work.
Okay.
Should that come in as a petition article too, do you think, or is that a?
If you want to pitch it to the board, we can certainly place it on the warrant at our discretion.
Okay,
And if it's something the board's likely to support, it's probably better that we place it on there. I don't know that everyone picks up on that notation, but a fair number of people know that if it's a petition warrant article, the Board of Selectmen might not be in favor of it.
okay.
You got that,
Did
Jeff?
they do the maintenance before?
Bring it.
How did they do the maintenance before on the fields?
They would just, there wasn't a lot of maintenance done on them.
Had a couple of Eagle Scout projects that took care of some of the bigger pieces that needed to be done.
We didn't have the inventory we have now either.
Right, the revolving count covered some of it, but the revolving count is shrinking. So we're trying to get, each program is trying to be self-sufficient, and field maintenance is kind of one of the things we're looking at putting out there. See if, it's just a question. If nobody wants to support it, then.
I would bring it back to the board and have us take a look at it then, see if we want to place it on there.
Okay.
It's been sort of hodgepodge. We've certainly had assistance from the highway department. I know when things have needed to be done, we've had assistance from volunteers. We've had Eagle Scouts redo like the baseball soil in the base paths, that sort of thing.
Well, even one of the items is tree trimming along the fence line here that's overhanging the after-school program.
Mm.
So, it's something that's not just all field, it's just some upkeep on some of the properties.
So you'll bring it back, Jeff? Just an
Yeah,
idea?
I'm just thinking we don't meet again until after the deadline.
Oh, we don't?
Parks and Rec doesn't, the commission doesn't,
Oh, okay.
so I'll have to put something together and get it here before the
Maybe some,
23rd.
you can
Yeah,
work with
dollar
Nick
amount.
on it, or
Yeah,
Katie can
I
get
have a
it.
pretty good idea what we want to do, so.
That'd be great.
If you can get us some sample language, then John can get it to Bart, and we
Yep.
can get it crafted so it's legal. And any other warrant articles that the board feels we should be considering?
Didn't we talk at one point about the consideration, the possibility of appointing the road agent?
I did bring that up, and we talked about it, which would be a public works director. Typically, that position lots of times takes authority over the transfer station too. Don't know how the board feels.
Well, we'd have to write the job description, right? Whether, is it a title?
We would, and it can certainly be just, if that warrant article passes, there's at least calendar year, or maybe even the term that has to be finished before it takes effect.
My understanding is if you were to put forth a warrant article to change it from elected to appointed, the election would still be held this year. The warrant would take effect 2021, and the person who was voted in would certainly be able to apply for the position if
Right.
they were interested.
So even though it was a 3-year term, it might end in one?
Right.
Correct.
If the board wasn't agreeable. I think my reason certainly for bringing that up and discussing it is I have some concern that we may reach a stage where people with background in road maintenance and road construction don't want to run for a small-town road agent. And I know the
Right.
towns around us, that has happened in 3 of them. They have now gone to appointed positions.
Yeah, certainly the concern I have is that certainly Mark is well qualified, but it's entirely possible that we have nobody sign up for the position and somebody says, oh, gee, I'll sign up,
Right.
Yeah.
with no qualifications whatsoever.
Well, that's, if we want to introduce that warrant article, it's failed miserably in the past, but it's a, RSA specific with regard to the wording, so that's certainly something we could bring forward, and I don't know.
I can bring language to the meeting on the 23rd, and you can review it.
Yeah, but why don't you throw it on, and we can decide whether we want to leave it or not.
Well, if you did something like that, you said they take over the transfer station, they take over what else?
Well, why do
What
they
we
have to?
decide we want them to take over.
Yeah.
Because we already pay somebody to take over the transfer station, so now does that cut that person's pay? Or
No,
do we, It doesn't.
It wouldn't, and the job description for Public Works Director would fall to this board. We could make it just highway. Quite a number of other towns include other things. One of the things that is complicated about the transfer station is you need a transfer station operator's license.
Right.
The reason that Mr. Pelletier fell nicely into that position for us is because he has a transfer station operator's license,
I'm
and
just concerned about double paying people. We keep hiring people to do these jobs that people already do.
well,
But
we wouldn't have to
Put it
pay.
on the warrant article and see what happens, I guess.
We would not have to pay someone to run the transfer station. I mentioned that that's a common role of the Public Works Director, but you could adjust the wage and qualifications to say that it was just highway agent.
Yeah, why couldn't we just start with just highway agent right now?
You
And add
can-
to it
Yeah,
if it worked. Maybe it's not gonna work out, maybe it won't pass, but if it did,
Well, even if it did pass, we'd have a year to discuss what
what you
duties.
wanted to have for duties and what you wanted to pay that person.
I think it's,
Thinks it takes it out of the hands of the community, too.
That was the argument the last time it failed. I believe Mr. Gorman led the charge that,
Good memory.
that he felt the town should, I know through some of those stretches, we had some difficulty, though. In fact, at one point when I was on this board, we actually paid a selectman a stipend of $2,000 to do the paperwork and advise the highway agent.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd like to try to stay away from getting back into that position if we could.
Mhm. I agree.
Well, we'll take a look at it and decide on the 23rd if we want to leave it on there or not. Other new business or other business that the board wishes to discuss this evening?
That's it.
Fred?
Yeah, planning board was looking to get the cost of sign for Gulf Road, and I don't know if, John, have you had talked to Mark to get a price from DOT?
I have not heard back from him. I asked him for the pricing. I'll check back with him.
This is in regard to the decision with Northwood about.
Yeah, and have a warning sign saying caution, one-lane road ahead, or one-lane road, and then,
Caution, stay out of the lake.
yeah, right. And have two signs made up, one for, on the Northwood side and one for the Deerfield side.
Is Northwood gonna split this cost?
No, the developer would pay the cost.
Okay.
you should.
Other business to discuss? Hearing none, I would move to citizens' comments. Mrs. Katie?
I went looking in the old meeting room for the map that Alan O'Neill had done up and the map that I had made in Exeter that was from Joanne Watson's roads and when they were approved, and they weren't there. So somebody suggested the room across the hall, and it wasn't there. So I wondered if anybody knew where they went.
I do not know offhand, but we can certainly see about finding them. I would also advise anyone that is looking for the status of the roads that much of that information, not in map format, but much of that information was transferred to the road report that's on the Highway Department's webpage, which goes road by road in Deerfield, gives you status as to if it was discontinued, when it was discontinued, what its width is, what its surface is, any applicable history that was readily available was thrown on those pages as well.
I wasn't so much interested in that. I've got my own map of Joanne's, but the map that Alan did, he had the ability to draw it up, showed that 39% of the town unbuildable. You know, roads, town land, lakes, ponds, whatever. And then when I looked at, I believe at that time it was the MS-24, God knows what it is now, it was 63% of the town was in current use. So there's quite a bit of town property that pay way less in taxes, which, you know, I'm fine with the current use, but it's throwing a big burden on the other taxpayers for the school and the town taxes. So I'd like to see that map back and added to, because we've bought more conservation land and so forth since then. And I think that should be kept track of, just how much property is paying taxes. Then I have a question, which is sounds ridiculous, but every time we take the town's value, as you know, 569 million, something like that, is what the county bases their taxes on. But every time we take off property and give abatements on property, is that put forth to the county so that we're not paying the taxes on it that year? Or does that only come up in the next year? Anybody know?
I do not know the exact
No.
timetable for that.
Because they base it on what we have on that MS-24 as a total value of the town.
I would suspect it comes up in the following year.
So we actually pay county taxes on something we don't have in that year. Thank you.
If there are no other comments, I will.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
6:38.
Thank you.